And now we're heading for a twilight visit to the great temple of Luxor. It's a magical time of day with the sun setting and the lighting coming on. It's cooler and not quite as crowded at this time, so it's a really great time to visit this temple, especially with the help of our guide Tamer.
Around the two sides of the gate, two black granite statues of the king sitting there guarding the temple's gate. In front of them, he erected two obelisks. We see one of them, and the other one was the one that was given as a gift to France, which is now in the Place de la Concorde in Paris. And this is the one the identical copy of it that still remains in its place over here. The other one was given in the early 19th century by an Egyptian king called Muhammad Ali. Not the boxer we know of, but another one. Also pointing out on this side over here, we have that avenue of sphinxes. This is the end of it from this side over here, which used to go all the way to Karnak. Used to be 1,600 of them, 800 on each side. Whoa. And that from here to Karnak temple. Now we'll walk into the temple together. Over here we are inside one of the open courts of the temple, and this was the addition by the King Ramses II. Floods year after the other kept leaving layer after another of the silt that kept accumulating over here until this temple got silted up. By the 13th century AD, when they came to build a mosque, that was the ground level, the bottom part of the mosque up there, that has become the ground level then. So this mosque goes back to the 13th century AD. It was renovated, of course, and restored several times. Over here, this is a court again, additioned by Ramses II, who made two lines of columns surrounding this hole over here. In between them, different statues of his from granite, pink and black. Over here, some better preserved ones. And the best preserved of those we've seen in the Cairo Museum, when in the main hall as we entered into the main building. The statues that were around us on the sides, these were from here as well. Also, there are the other two big black granite statues of his guarding the next part of the temple, as if he is the one who made it, that corridor there, while that corridor actually goes back from the time of King Tutankhamun, who ordered making it, and those two lines of columns that have the capitals look like the open bud papyrus plant. Now let's head this way together. The statues over here from the white stone, a very raw form of alabaster, and they are statues of the King Tutankhamun and his wife Anksen-Amun. The other one would show King Tut as representing Amun with two feathers over his head, so he was like representing the god Amun over here. Starting from this open court over here all the way through until the end of the temple, this was one complete temple built by one king, Amenhotep III, the grandfather of King Tut. And the king built this as a complete temple for the goddess Mut. Then later his grandson Tutankhamun added the corridor there with the columns, and then Ramses added his hole as well. Here in this open court of the temple, the columns around us, these also were restored. At the same time, they were restoring the columns in Karnak. The new ones range around 15 meters deep under solid concrete to also protect from the underground water threat. The columns over here look different than those we had seen before in Karnak, or we will see in any other of the other temples. These over here, each one of them represents the papyrus plant as well. You've seen the reeds of the papyrus, right? These are the small ones they use for making paper, but papyrus could grow 4, 5, 6 meters high. Becomes big, thick, reeds like that. They use those in the building and put a bunch of them tied by rope together to make like a column and join them by mud brick. So these are the fancy homes of the rich people in ancient Egypt. This is what that is replicating. Each one of them is like the bunch of the reeds of the papyrus plant that make the shape of the column, and then the capitals represent the closed bud papyrus plant, while the higher ones as if it grown up and opened the buds. Now, let's continue further inside. Egypt was under the Roman rule when they turned into Christianity in the 4th century, and there was a big change here from Christians being persecuted to Egypt becoming officially a Christian country in the 4th century. A big sudden change. With that, one temple after the other started to get closed, stopping the worship of the different gods, and even also converting some of the halls of temples to become Christian churches. This one became so. So it was decided that this hall will become a Christian church when they closed the temple in the 4th century. What was decorating the walls of this hall were scenes showing the Egyptian king standing with the Egyptian gods and presenting his offerings, which are not the appropriate scenes to decorate the walls of a church. So what they did is they decided to add a layer of plaster on top of the wall to hide those reliefs, and started painting on that layer scenes showing some of the famous saints and martyrs, people who struggled for the freedom of Christianity, some of the Roman kings. Now let's continue further inside. We come over here to the sanctuary of the temple. This wall here is the wall of the inner wall of the original sanctuary of the temple by the king Amenhotep III. Later on, 1100 years after the time of Amenhotep III, that king over here, comes Alexander the Great to Egypt. And Alexander wanted his addition to the temples here as well, like other Egyptian kings did, because he wanted to merge into the Egyptians and become one of them. Alexander the Great, whenever he conquered any people, he wanted to be one of them. Instead of being the foreign ruler who's coming to rule by force, he wanted to be one of them. So for the Greeks that he wanted to unite under his umbrella, he said, my grandmother was Greek. When he came to Egypt, he lied and said, my grandmother was Egyptian. He conquered Persia and married a Persian woman. So merging always into the people, and that's what Ptolemy did. He was so powerful, he even made his assistants and friends marry Persian women, so like Ptolemy and so on. And then after that, they found that this was a very successful policy, so the Ptolemies went on merging into the Egyptian culture, and so did the Romans later when they came. That's Alexander the Great, shown here before the different gods and deities, and that was his addition to the Temple of Luxor. So he did his addition and another sanctuary inside the original one. So the king we see on that wall is 3,400 years old. This wall is 2,300 years old. There is 1,100 years difference in time between those two walls. The king here is Amenhotep III, presenting his offerings. Alexander is here, and he's worshiping Ammon over here. Then another time, this is also Alexander. This time he worships Ammon-Men, the god of fertility. That's Alexander the Great facing the different Egyptian gods and worshiping them over here. This was his addition in the Temple of Luxor, and a similar one in the Temple of Karnak as well, that he added over there. This is the better preserved one. Back of the wall here, there is another door which leads to another hall that also became a Christian church when they closed the temple. And beyond that, there used to be a sacred lake, which we lost when they made the asphalt road behind the temple. So there used to be one over here, but that one is not there any longer. And that's about the Temple of Luxor over here. As we're walking out, we can take our photos until we reach the obelisk. We meet in the space we started at in front by the obelisk out there, so we can walk together to the market in like 20 minutes from now. Okay, enjoy your time, and I'm here for any questions, of course.
How remarkable that this one temple has stood here for so many thousands of years and been used in different ways by different religions, different pharaohs. It was built by the ancient Egyptians, and then the Christians came in and put in a church. Before them, Alexander the Great from Greece was here with his temple, and then the Muslims built a mosque on the site. It was all covered over with dirt until early in the 20th century, when these wonderful statues and columns were uncovered once again and renovated and fixed up for your visiting pleasure. We arrived at twilight with some sunset in the background in the sky, and now it's nighttime. Been here for a couple of hours enjoying this amazing Temple of Luxor, and this lighting makes it even more dramatic. We've actually stayed here right about up until the end of the visiting time, which is highly recommended. Of course, you can come during the day, and it's quite interesting, just as beautiful, a different experience. Maybe try it in the day and come back at night. You will not be disappointed.